Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Athletes in Practice, where we talk with former college athletes who have taken their skills, drive, and discipline from the court into the world of medicine. I'm Hunter Engel, and today I'll be interviewing Dr. Edmond Fitzgerald. Edmond played basketball for the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, competing in the high-stakes SEC conference. Over his college career, he appeared in 77 games, shot an impressive 41% from the field, and was known for his work ethic, versatility, and contributions on both sides of the court. Since finishing his basketball career at Ole Miss, Edmond has continued on a path defined by focus and determination. He graduated from the Louisiana State University School of Medicine in New Orleans in 2000 and completed his residency at Wake Forest Baptist Hospital. Today, he practices anesthesiology in Greensboro, North Carolina, and is affiliated with the Women's Hospital there. Outside of medicine, Edmond and his wife, Taya, share a passion for the outdoors. Together, with their kids, they've hiked and adventured all over the world, from Swiss Alps to the Glacier National Park to trails right in their backyard in North Carolina. And they're excited about exploring new places. And I just wanted to start. So, all right, Edmond, to start us off, can you walk us through what you're doing now as an anesthesiologist and how you went from playing SEC basketball to practicing in medicine and how hiking fits into your life these days?
Well, that's a lot, big bite on the first question, but I'll try to answer all of those issues.
Yeah.
So I practice anesthesia in Greensboro, North Carolina. I do basically the anesthesia for any type of surgery that comes in, from newborns, brain surgery, open heart surgery, and everything in between. How does hiking fit into my life?
Yeah. How do you kind of stay active, and how do you so you obviously stay active still, but kind of how did you go from the SEC basketball to practicing medicine?
Yeah. So I had I was on the 5-year plan at Ole Miss. So and part of that had to do with the fact that I didn't really know what I wanted to do until probably my last year of college. I knew that I loved science and biology particularly, but I wasn't really confident that I could get into medical school, quite honestly. I had some mentors that sort of led me along the path and gave me the confidence that, look, your grades are really good here. You've got a full load of classes. You can do this. And so I had started to go down the road of maybe looking into physical therapy, because it dovetailed nicely into athletics and rehabbing from injury and that sort of thing. But as I got into that, it just wasn't for me. And so I started focusing more on, well, maybe I can become a physician. But I majored in biology, but I hadn't had organic chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I graduated from Ole Miss, I went directly back. I moved back home to New Orleans, where I was originally from. Went to University of New Orleans over the summer, took organic chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and so knocked that out. Then I was more prepared for the MCAT, took the MCAT, and during the course of that year, I gave some private lessons to middle school kids playing basketball. I tutored in Latin, because I had taken Latin from like 5th grade through college, and just tried to make a little money on the side while I was living at home and trying to figure out if I was going to even get into medical school. Fortunately, it was only that 1 year that I was out of school, and I was able to get into medical school the very next year. And from there, I faced similar challenges. Not in the classroom. I did fine in the classroom, but trying to find a specialty that interested me. In fact, I came home after my 3rd year of medical school. I had done all the rotations, and I told my wife that I was like, I don't know if if I'm going down the right path even now. None of the things that I had been exposed to interested me enough to want to do it for the rest of my life. Fortunately, I had, those mentors in your life that are always sort of keeping you going, giving you confidence. I had one of my good friends in high school's older brother was doing an anesthesia residency at the time. One of my wife's college roommate's father was an anesthesiologist in Jackson, Mississippi. And they were like, whatever you do, don't leave medical school without doing a rotation in anesthesia. And so I hadn't really been exposed to that up until that point. I was sort of interested in urology, but I did that anesthesia month in my first year of my fourth year of medical school. And it was like it just clicked. The light bulb went off. I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And thank God that it worked out that way, because I wouldn't be here talking to you probably today if it didn't. But, that's what got me into anesthesia, got me interested in anesthesia. That got me to Wake Forest and up to North Carolina. And that's what got me to the mountains and these trails and all the hiking that I do now. Because I hadn't had any of that growing up in New Orleans. And in Mississippi, there's not a lot of hiking either. So, moving to North Carolina changed my life.
Yeah. Well, that sounds oddly familiar to kind of what I'm doing right now. So I did a pre-medical post-bac last year, 24 to 25. And then right now I'm actually coaching lacrosse for my old club team, making a little money there. And then doing a little bit of research on the side, but our experiences are pretty similar. I was kind of wondering, kind of with that time in between undergrad and medical school, how did that time specifically, I mean, how did that shape you going forward?
Well, I think that, when you do organic chemistry in mini sessions in the summer, so I took the first semester of organic in 1 month in June, and then the second semester in 1 month in July. And you have to treat it like a job. I mean, you're going to class for 2 hours in the morning, but then you're sort of studying all day, trying to, learn that information because it's coming at you so fast. That really prepared me, I think, for that first semester of medical school, and really it turned into the first 2 years of medical school, because when I was there, it was pretty much all didactics the first 2 years. I think maybe they do a little bit more clinical early on now, but back then it was all books for 2 years. And, having that experience and sort of having that mindset of, all right, look, I know I'm going to be going to class and then going straight to the library or straight back home, studying for a period of time, maybe go for a run in the afternoon, but get back to the books. It put me sort of in that mindset that this is how what medical school is going to be like, and this is sort of how I have to approach it to be able to be successful.
Yeah, that sounds like that's how kind of it would build up. And so you kind of had that little bit of transition time in between. And so what was it like leaving basketball and jumping into medical school full time, both like academically and personally?
Well, so my last year of college, I did not play basketball. So I had almost a year before my post-bac sort of year to, experience college from the non-athlete sort of lens. And so I kind of got, I got away from the every day waking up, lifting weights, running, practicing. And it's easy to get comfortable when you're not doing that every single day. And so, transitioning back into a very disciplined, focused sort of lifestyle can be difficult. And I think it takes, someone who has drive and discipline and, all those things that make you a college athlete. I think you don't lose those personality traits just because you're not competing anymore on the court or on the field or whatever. I think those are sort of ingrained in you, and you just got to sort of turn that switch back on and get really focused once again.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of skills that you just kind of mentioned, like discipline, time management, and communication. Are there any in particular that kind of helped you stand out when applying to medical school, or just kind of as you went through your time at med school?
Well, I think probably the thing that helped me the most was just a disciplined approach to your day, and you have friends that are doing other things, and it doesn't require the time that medical school does. I mean, if you don't treat it like a full-time job from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed, you're at risk unless you're extremely smart, and can retain information much better than I could. I mean, I had to really grind in those first 2 years. And so I think that the discipline of having a routine, making sure that I was, getting enough sleep at night, I'm not one that stays up past 10 o'clock to study all night. I would make sure that I got it all done during the day. I would make time for exercise. I had a wife, I had to make sure that I spent enough time with her, which was difficult during those first couple years. So, you just have to have a routine and be disciplined enough to follow that routine. And I think that's what was the most important for me.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I was kind of wondering, so building on that a little bit, have you ever shared an approach, a habit, like kind of like a mindset habit, how you handle stress from your sports background? Have you ever shared an approach like that with colleagues who weren't athletes? And if so, did it impact the team dynamic?
That's a tough one. I'm not sure that I actually have shared that. More, I've tried to sort of almost lead by example, I guess. I was certainly not the star of the team, so to speak. I was a role player, but I think that everybody could see that I was working hard to be a part of the team and contribute in any way that I could. I think that the same is true in what I do now. Show up, I'm available, you're working hard, but medicine is a team sport too. And so, I'm working with surgeons and nurses and techs, and, everybody's got to kind of be on the same page to take care of these patients. And so it's really more of a team sport than you might imagine. At least in anesthesia it is. And I would venture to say that some of your other guests who are surgeons or internists or whatever, may have shared, a similar idea.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like as an anesthesiologist, you kind of got to talk to, like, you're in the room and you're a doctor, but you also have so many other contributing people to kind of what is going on in the healing process of somebody else. So that takes a lot of like communication. Okay, so medicine kind of demands a lot: time, energy, emotional resilience. Would you say that the passion that you had for basketball mirrors the passion that you bring to medicine, or the same passion that you have for maybe hiking and adventure travel?
Well, I think that if you don't have passion for what you're doing, you're going to be miserable. I definitely love my job, especially on the clinical side. There's administrative things that I have to deal with that are nuisances and challenging. But the I do still love getting up and going to work every day and taking care of patients and doing procedures, working with my hands, having to think about different comorbidities and how you treat them, and get these patients through some very difficult surgeries. So, yeah, I think the passion that it takes to be successful on the court is very similar to what you need to have to keep it interesting, keep it fun, and as you go throughout your career, which is going to be a long career, right? I mean, you're talking about 30 years probably, and yeah, you got to keep that going.
So, what do you do to spice it up and keep it interesting?
Well, that's that's challenging because a lot of we see the same types of surgeries all the
Mm-hmm.
time, but you sort of always challenge yourself or ask questions about, all right, and you do have to read, not a ton, but you do have to sort of keep up with different medicines that are out there and what those might do to a patient who's undergoing anesthesia. And so trying to stay up on some of that stuff keeps you focused, keeps you learning. We have continuing education stuff that keeps us sort of sharp, and sort of in tune with the newest technologies or medicines and things. And then just sort of ask questions of your partners and keep challenging each other. We always say that, when you graduate from your residency, you have oral boards that you have to take. And, you prepare for those for probably a year after your written boards to take those. But we like to think that our job is an oral board exam every day, and you can go and ask questions to your partners about what would you do in this situation with this patient's comorbidities, and just try to keep the conversation going about what's best.
Yeah.
Because taking care of a gallbladder that's coming out or an appendix, those procedures can get to be fairly routine. But you always got to think about what could happen and be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's super fair. So kind of on the same vein of collaboration and going a little bit back to med school, med school can be competitive, but it can also be collaborative. And in sports, you often compete with your teammates while working towards a common goal. So how did you navigate that same balance in med school?
That I never really thought of med school as being a competitive environment, and maybe that was just me being naive or not feeling that way with my friend group. I mean, we did study. I studied alone for the most part, but when it came close to test time, we had a group that got together and we would collaborate and go over test questions and study a little bit more together as it got closer to that time. But I think that all you can do is focus on you, right? I mean, you got to prepare and do what you need to do to get ready, because people study differently. I feel like, I might have had to study more than some of my colleagues, and maybe less than others. But, all the material is the same. It's just how you process it and how you learn it. And whatever happens at the end of the day, with your test scores and things, is what happens. But the people that were super competitive, I tended to not really, hang out with a whole lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it much more of a collaborative effort, especially during those times we were getting close to big tests.
Yeah. Some people are very competitive, and then you just got to find the ones who are lifting you up a little bit. Going a little bit deeper, was there ever a moment, we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, but was there ever a moment in your medical career, medical journey, whether it was during school, residency, practice, where you almost walked away or questioned if this was right for you? What helped you push through? Was it something internal like discipline from sports, or was it external, like mentorship and support? And you kind of mentioned that a little bit, but
Yeah.
mix of
Yeah.
both.
I mean, I would definitely say it was my mentors,
Mm-hmm.
because I think I just hadn't found something that truly interested me through 3 years of medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And it took those people to say, you got to go try this. And I was just very lucky, because not only did I say, all right, I'm going to go do a month of anesthesia, I went and did it at the VA hospital in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know if you've ever been to a veterans hospital yet, but those guys, they will let you practice on them, to an insane amount. I mean, I would never let somebody stick me with needles as much as these guys let me stick them with needles and fail and, make mistakes. But the head of the anesthesia department at the VA hospital exposed me to so many things that I never could have imagined being exposed to. And if it wasn't for those people telling me to go do anesthesia, those friends that I had, or the parents of friends, and having this mentor once I got there,
Mm-hmm.
to show me what all the world of anesthesia entailed. I mean, I may not have stuck with it. I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just the world of anesthesia had such nuance to it for me that I just knew that was what I wanted to do, and I just didn't have that feeling about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, kind of talking about that feeling, when was the last time that medicine or anesthesiology didn't feel like work? When you were kind of totally in the flow state and like in the zone, what made that moment stand out to you? And did it remind you of how you used to feel on the basketball court, or maybe a tough hike?
I think when you're up late at night, taking care of, somebody who's critically ill,
Mm-hmm.
for me, that kind of gets those sort of competitive juices flowing a little bit. Like, this guy is not going to die on my watch, um, and it takes, a whole team of people, but there's a lot of procedures, there's a lot of things. We got to get blood from the blood bank, we got to give these products, and the surgeon has to communicate, and so you feel like you're in a game, talking to teammates about strategy and how we're going to handle this. That still, to me, when that happens, somebody comes in with a gunshot wound and they're bleeding to death and we got to save them, that still gets my sort of the similar feeling of competing and trying to save someone's life are still similar for me.
That's really cool. How many gunshot victims have you had?
Unfortunately, a lot.
Yeah.
I like to think that our area of the country and in North Carolina is fairly safe compared to some bigger cities in the country, but we still see our fair share of penetrating trauma, and so I take care of more than my fair share of kids getting shot, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sorry about that. So, well, even in a good career, we all make trade-offs. So, what trade-offs have you made to stay on this path? And are there any things that help keep those trade-offs in perspective for you?
Well, I think the trade-offs are certainly that you sacrifice time with your family, your friends. You're going to miss, holidays, because we all take turns being on call for Christmas, and so you miss out on, on a good bit of stuff, to be honest. And so you just got to make sure that this time that you do spend with your family and your children is positive, and you make the most of it, because now my kids they're grown, they're graduated, they've moved on. So but I do reflect and wish that I had gotten to spend more holidays and birthdays and those sorts of things with them. But it's part of the job, and it's a difficult part of the job, to be quite honest. But I think that I have made it a priority to make sure that when I'm off, we're spending time together. We like to travel, so we've gone on nice trips and things like that. So I think that that's how you sort of compensate a little bit for not being around as much as you'd like to be.
Yeah. And all right, so one more question before we wrap up. Then there's a wrap-up question. But so do you feel like you kind of compartmentalize your life, or do you find and that's like the easiest, so you walk into the hospital and that's you're like in a different type of mode, or do you find like there's a lot of overlap and you kind of, so are there pros and cons? Do you do it or do you not do it? Compartmentalization.
I think that it's a little unique to anesthesia that you are able to compartmentalize, because when you're working, you're working.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're off, you're not carrying a pager, you're not on call, and really you're not necessarily reachable. One of your partners has stepped into that role, and it's their job to manage the operating room and all that stuff. So I am able to, for the most part, when I leave the hospital, become a regular person again and not have to deal with a lot of the stuff that was sort of left at the hospital. From a clinical standpoint, once again, once you get into some administrative roles and things, those creep into your personal life a little bit more and make it difficult to compartmentalize totally. But unique to anesthesia, and one of the reasons that I really loved it and went into it was because of that fact that when I leave, I know that I'm leaving all those patients in good hands with my partners, but it's not on me to necessarily follow them over the course of the next couple hours or days.
Okay. Yeah. So just to wrap it up, if you could give just one piece of advice to current student athletes who want to become physicians, what would it be?
I would say that being a college athlete, you have the tools that it takes. You've put in the hours, you have the discipline, the work ethic, the persistence. Keep studying, keep working hard to get whatever scores you need to get up, and it'll happen. You just need to continually remind yourself that sometimes it takes time, but that once you do make it into medical school, it's a very rewarding career. You'll always have a job, and you'll have a very happy life, doing what you love to do. So keep working hard.
Yeah, I'm taking that into my MCAT studying. Gotta get that score up, but we gotta.
Yeah, I've been there.
Every day. Yeah,
I've been there. Yeah.
Well, Edmond, thank you so much for taking the time, your insight, and thank you for your time, insight, and being a role model, not just for student athletes, but anyone looking to bring balance, adventure, and purpose into their lives and careers. We are grateful to have had you on Athletes in Practice.